Maria, I had no idea you felt this way about me. I'm truly moved by your integrity. Thank you. I won't waste your feelings, I'm gonna make myself happy. I secretly scoffed at my husband, who seemed to be moved, while making sure he didn't notice, playing the part of the tragic heroine. My name is Maria. I'm an office worker in 30s. I met my husband, Dan, at a bar. A beautiful woman like you shouldn't be sitting alone in a place like this. You'll get hit on by guys like me. I like it here, the food and drinks are great. If you're here to pick up girls, I'm not interested. Come on, don't be so cold. Let's just chat for a bit. I was initially wary of Dan, who seemed frivolous, but chatting with him turned out to be really fun, and we exchanged contact information that day. We ended up getting married quickly, only 3 months later. However, right after our marriage, I discovered Dan's affair. Dan! You picked up another woman at the bar where we met, didn't you? What are you talking about? Sure, we met through me hitting on you, but that was because I genuinely found you cute. It's not like I do this with everyone. You know, I'm a regular at that bar too. I've been getting warnings and sightings from various places. Why would you hit on someone there? Are you an idiot? No, I mean, yes, I talked to her, but that was it. She's nothing special. People have been telling me this from various places. Someone even sent me photos. I showed Dan the photos sent to my smartphone. In them, a woman was leaning on Dan at the bar, and there were also pictures of them entering a hotel together. Realizing he couldn't talk his way out of it, Dan began to tearfully apologize. I'm really sorry. It was a moment of folly. You're the only one for me, Maria. Please forgive me. Can you really break it off with her? Yeah, of course. If Maria says so, I can call her right now and end it. All right. If you say so, I'll forgive you this time. But there won't be a next time. I thought I was being too lenient, but I loved Dan, and since we had only been married for a few months, I ended up forgiving him. About a year after the affair, Dan's infidelity was discovered once again. The trigger was a series of inexplicable events happening around me. Hey, recently there's been trash scattered around our house. What's with that? Some kind of harassment from someone? I don't know, but it's creepy. Could you keep an eye out for me? It mostly happens early in the morning. Got it. If I catch them, I'll give them a piece of my mind. Dan was eager to do the early morning surveillance, but he suddenly quit after a few days, so I asked, You stopped watching, does that mean you found the culprit? What kind of person was it? Well, actually, it turned out to be a kid from the neighborhood. I didn't want to make a big deal out of it and make the kid feel bad, you know? So, Maria, please don't talk about this too much with others. Dan's behavior seemed unnatural when he said this, and I felt something was off. Around the same time, my personal items started disappearing or unfamiliar items would appear in our house. Hey, do you know where the other earring of mine is? I don't think I've seen it. It's probably because you don't put things away properly. It should have been put away. The other one was right here. And, instead, there's this necklace I don't recognize. Oh, it's a surprise gift for me. Cute, isn't it? I thought it would suit you, Maria. Seeing Dan's evasive behavior, I was certain. Including the trash incident, this was harassment from Dan's affair partner. To gather evidence, I secretly placed GPS trackers and voice recorders in his car and bag, and also asked our mutual friends. Hey, have you seen Dan around lately? He doesn't come to the usual spot anymore, but, actually, I've been seeing him at a bar a bit farther away, always with a woman. I should have told you sooner, but I was worried you'd be shocked. Sorry for not saying anything. No, it's okay. Tell me the truth. All right. I actually asked Dan directly. I joked, Dan, cheating again? Maria said there won't be a next time, right? And he laughed, saying Maria is head over heels for me, even if she found out, she wouldn't divorce me. he doesn't feel guilty at all. It seems I was taken lightly by Dan for forgiving his first affair too easily. Moreover, it seems to be the same woman as last time. Neither Dan nor that woman learns. Though, it looked like she was more attached to Dan. Okay, got it, thanks. After a while, a voice recorder I hid in the car proved useful. She doesn't work, and barely does any housework. She's a failure as a wife. On the other hand, Kelly is young and cute, a truly charming woman. Being praised by you makes me very happy. I want to be your wife soon. I want to marry you soon too. But she won't agree to a divorce. It's really troublesome. I will talk to her directly. If she truly loves you, she should let you go soon. No, doing that could make her hold a grudge against you, and there's no telling what she might do. I don't want you to provoke her by doing things like spreading trash around or taking things from the house without permission, like last time. I want to protect you from her. Dan, you're so kind. Understood. I will wait patiently, so please marry me someday. Of course. I'm looking forward to it too, so just wait a little longer. Listening to the recorded voices, I decided to grant their wish and chuckled to myself. What's this talk about? I told Dan we needed to have a serious talk and sat facing him in the living room. Dan, you're hiding something from me, aren't you? What are you talking about all of a sudden? I wouldn't keep secrets from you, Maria. Really? Then who's Kelly? Huh? Kelly? I don't know anyone by that name. You do know. The cute, adorable Kelly. The one you want to divorce me for and be with. What are you talking about? There's no one else for me but you, Maria. Too bad, but that lie won't work anymore. Want to listen to this? I played the recorded conversation from the car. Dan's face turned pale instantly. What? You were eavesdropping? It's my car, so I don't think it counts as eavesdropping. So? You want to divorce me and marry Kelly? Well, that's... As Dan faltered, pale-faced, I decided to tell him with a smile. By the way, you gave me a surprise gift recently, right? So, I prepared a surprise gift in return. I really want you to accept it. Oh, thank you. Then, come on in. As I called out, the living room door opened, and Kelly appeared. Seeing Kelly, Dan's eyes widened in shock at the unexpected turn of events. Eh? Ha! What? How? Kelly and Maria know each other? Dan, your wife is so kind. She understands our love is real and is willing to forgive us. Kelly happily jumped into Dan's arms, while Dan was still unable to grasp the situation, looking back and forth between me and Kelly. What's going on? What's happening? Well, let me explain to you, Dan. After I was convinced you and Kelly were having an affair, I contacted Kelly. It's the second affair, right? The regulars at our usual bar helped me find her contact easily. After contacting Kelly and telling her the place and time, she showed up right on time as agreed. Nice to meet you, Kelly. I'm Dan's wife. Nice to meet you. So, what do you want? To get straight to the point, you want to marry Dan, right? Yes, that's right. So, I feel bad for you, but could you divorce Dan? Do you realize that what you're doing is an affair? And that it's wrong? I know society considers it wrong. But meeting Dan was fate. Both Dan and Kelly can't live without each other. It's just that we met in the wrong order, I guess. I see, I understand. Then, I'll agree to divorce Dan. Really? But Dan has been hesitant to divorce. There's a condition, though. You know, if an affair is discovered, you normally have to pay alimony, right? I know, but I don't have the money. You're young. That can't be helped. So, I won't ask for alimony if you agree to my condition. That's scary. It's nothing scary. It's something simple for you too. After explaining the condition, Kelly's face lit up with understanding. Really, that's all? And we don't have to pay alimony? Yes, of course. Just make sure to follow the condition. We'll make a formal agreement, so could you sign it? Of course. Dan said you were a terrifying wife, so I thought you'd be scarier. It's good that you're a kind person.
Then, I told Kelly about today and asked her to come to our house.
So, what's this condition? Don't worry, Dan. It's really simple. Exactly, something simple for two people in love. In lieu of alimony for this affair, once Dan and I divorce, you two must marry. And then, you must not divorce. Those are the only two conditions. Huh? Really, just those two conditions? Yes, really just those two. But, if you break either condition, you'll have to pay me $100,000. $100,000? Isn't that a bit much? Well, you two love each other, so this should be easy, right? Just get married and live happily ever after. That's true, but...
Seeing Dan hesitate over the amount, I smiled.
I want Dan to be happy because I love him. At first, I wanted him to come back to me and asked for a separation, but after talking to Kelly directly, I realized something. If it's Kelly, she can definitely support and make Dan happy. Right, Kelly? Yes. Of course. Since you love Dan so much, I'm sure Kelly will support him devotedly. Understanding this, I've decided to step back. But in exchange, I want you two to be absolutely happy. That's what the agreement is for.
Dan seemed moved by my explanation.
Maria. I had no idea you thought so highly of me. Your integrity is truly moving. Thank you. I won't waste your feelings, I'll be happy.
Hearing Dan's tearful gratitude, I internally cheered. Then, I had Dan and Kelly sign the agreement. I also got Dan to sign the divorce papers on the spot. I'll submit these divorce papers tomorrow. I'm leaving the marriage certificate here for you two to submit yourselves. Since there's an agreement, I'd like a copy of the document proving your marriage sent to me once you're officially married. This house is in my name, but I'll be away for a while, so you can take your time to move out your stuff. After explaining everything necessary, and to not make them suspect anything was off, I gave Dan a somewhat sad smile before saying our final goodbyes. Dan. Thank you for the wonderful memories. From now on, be happy with Kelly. I'll be rooting for you from the shadows.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you so much. We'll definitely be happy.
Thanked by the two, I left the house and headed to a hotel I had reserved in advance. The following days were busy with submitting the divorce papers and moving my belongings to a new place. It seems the marriage certificate was submitted the week after our talk, as I found the official document on the dining table when I went to pick up my stuff.
Good, they're officially married. Now I don't have to worry anymore.
I quickly completed my move and gave Dan and Kelly a false address. I also asked people around me not to reveal my whereabouts. So, the only way they could contact me was by phone. I was quietly looking forward to a call from them. I thought it might take over a year, but it happened much sooner. About 6 months after they got married, my phone rang. Looking at the screen, it seemed to be Kelly. I couldn't hide my smirk, but I made sure not to let it show in my voice as I answered the phone. Hello, Kelly?
Hey! What's the meaning of this? You did something, didn't you?
As soon as I answered, Kelly's shouting filled the air. What are you talking about?
Don't play dumb. I don't know what you did, but turn Dan back to how he was.
Can you calm down? I'm quite far from where you two are living. It's physically impossible for me to do anything to you guys.
Lies. You must be nearby, right? The address you gave was fake, and you've been feeding Dan lies, haven't you?
It was wrong of me to give a fake address, I admit. But I really am far away, and I haven't done anything to Dan. We haven't met or communicated in any way since the divorce, not even phone calls or emails.
Then why has Dan become like this?
Like what?
Like, he suddenly aged, turned into an old man. Plus, he doesn't spend money on me anymore. Before we got married, we were so in love, but now he barely comes home.
Let's go through it one by one, shall we?
Go through what?
First, about him suddenly aging, he probably always looked that way. After all, Dan is in his 40s, you know? And you're in your 20s, right? Compared to your peers, he definitely seemed like an old man.
But before we got married, he was much cooler and didn't seem like an old man at all.
That's because I coordinated all his clothes and possessions.
What?
In other words, the Dan you fell in love with wouldn't exist without me. When I met him, he was already plenty old. I didn't fall for his looks, so it didn't bother me, but if he had looked like that, there's no way he could have had an affair with someone like you. I remembered Dan as he was when we first met. Dan wasn't unkempt, but he certainly didn't dress in a way that was appealing to women. He looked more like a dad on his day off, perhaps even a bit older than his actual age. In other words, that's probably why I didn't guard myself against him. But for someone like Kelly, he wouldn't have stood a chance. After we got married, I wanted Dan to at least look presentable, so I coordinated his outfits and accessories, and regularly took him to the hair salon. Dan seemed indifferent, just going along with it, but I never thought these actions would end up facilitating his affairs.
From now on, you can coordinate for him. Dan will go along with it, so you can shape him to your liking. I don't have that kind of money. Recently, Dan's even stingy with the household expenses. Before we got married, he used to give me lots of presents, but now he doesn't give me anything. In fact, he even takes money from my wallet. Did you secretly spend all of Dan's money or what?
I haven't done such a thing. This is the second part of our fact check, but it seems Dan told you I was unemployed during your affair. It's actually the other way around.
What? What do you mean? Dan works at a major manufacturer, right?
No, that's me. Dan was unemployed. He used to be a part-timer, but he became unemployed about a month before we got married.
Then, where did all the money for the presents come from?
I'm not sure about the source, but he didn't have savings, so maybe he took out loans? Of course, I was the one providing for us during our marriage, and Dan even had debt from before we were married.
Debt?
Surprised? You should check it out soon because it's probably about $60,000. The sound from the other end went silent. It seems she was struck speechless by the revelation. I didn't know about the debt until we got married. It came to light when a collection notice arrived, and we decided to work together to pay it back. To pay it off, Dan promised to quit all his part-time jobs and focus on job hunting. That's why he became unemployed. But it seems he ended up staying unemployed. I should have continued the part-time jobs while job searching, but by then, I had already decided to divorce him, so I simply agreed to his plan to become unemployed for job hunting. To leave unemployed Dan with Kelly. Now, for the last fact check, you should be able to figure this out yourself.
What do you mean?
If he's not coming home often, it's obvious he's cheating. When I was married to him, he was having an affair with you. If you're in my previous position, there must be someone in your past role.
That can't be. Dan and I love each other.
Listen, a man who cheats never changes. You might think you're the exception, but that's an illusion. A man who could easily break such an important vow with a person he swore to spend his life with. Untrustworthy.
Then, maybe now too.
Oh, he's not home? That's suspicious. Maybe he's out picking up another woman. You should know the feeling, right? As I finished speaking, the call abruptly ended. Perhaps she went to look for Dan. Then, without delay, my phone rang again. This time, it seems to be a call from Dan. Hello, what's up?
Maria! I was wrong, please forgive me.
From the sound of Dan's voice, he seems to be drunk. The noisy background suggests he might be at a bar. What do you want now? It's not about forgiving or not forgiving, we're strangers now. Your wife isn't me, it's Kelly. You've got the wrong person.
Don't be so cold. I finally realized I need you, Maria. Kelly just won't do.
Don't be selfish. Basically, you're saying you need me because you're short on money, right? The other end went silent for a moment. It seems I hit the nail on the head. Though it's a bit mean to say, Kelly, well, she's not exactly capable, right? She's in her early 20s, working a clerical job at a small to medium-sized company. I was in a relatively prominent company, a star salesperson in my 30s. The salaries we get are worlds apart. While we were married, I couldn't save money, but I was able to cover living expenses, monthly debt repayments, and even give Dan an allowance. That would be difficult for a woman in her early 20s to manage.
Money doesn't matter. If Maria comes back, I don't need money. I'll contribute to the living expenses and plan to pay off the debt myself. So, come back. When I was with you, all I had to do was flirt and I'd get a warm reception.
Now, you're not getting looked at, are you? Dan fell silent again. Seems I was right again. Earlier, I purposely made Kelly feel insecure by suggesting there might be another woman, but likely, there's no woman around Dan now. An unfashionable, unattractive man in his 40s wouldn't successfully pick up a much younger woman. Dan knew this when we first met. That's why he didn't push too hard and we could have enjoyable conversations. However, after I intervened in Dan's fashion, making it possible for him to talk to young women, Dan must have deluded himself into thinking he became more desirable. Indeed, while married to me, he seemed to have succeeded in his advances multiple times. Most women would leave upon finding out he was married, but Kelly stayed, deepening their relationship.
There's no benefit in being with a middle-aged man who's not only broke but also not attractive. No wonder you're not getting any attention.
I pass.
You're just jealous because I went to another woman, right? I'm all for Maria now. Please, let's live together again. Hey, Dan. What are you doing here? Someone told me you were picking up girls here. I won't forgive you if you're trying to find a new woman.
Suddenly, Kelly's voice came through Dan's phone. It seems she had tracked down his location.
I'm not picking up girls. It's just a little drink, what's the big deal? If you have money for that, you should be giving it to me. I married you, why should I have to live this poor life with Kelly? That's my line. Maria was generous with money and took care of the house properly. You don't have money, and the house is a mess. Who would want to come home to that? It's because Dan doesn't do any housework. You said you did everything before we got married, but you do nothing, you parasite. What did you say? You were all too eager to leech off me too.
Listening to them bicker back and forth over the phone, Kelly suddenly exclaimed, I can't take it anymore. I'm divorcing you, Dan. You wasted Kelly's precious time, so you better pay me compensation.
Oh, you can't divorce him.
Kelly's claim was met with my calm objection.
Why not?
Have you forgotten?
Both of you signed the agreement. Oh, that can be worked around.
Not really. I had it legally drafted by a professional, so it's legally binding. If you divorce, you'll have to pay
$100,000. Oh, I wouldn't have any complaints about your getting a divorce as long as I'm paid $100,000. Saying you two couldn't get divorced was an exaggeration, sorry. That's impossible. There's no way we can afford that. By the way, it's $100,000 each, so that makes $200,000 for both of you. That's absolutely impossible. Then don't divorce and live happily together. You loved each other so much, I'm sure you two will be fine. Good luck. Hey, Maria. I still love you and… What? If you liked your ex-wife so much, you shouldn't have approached me in the first place. If I knew you were a debt-ridden, worn-out old man, I wouldn't have married you. You've ruined my life. What? It's mostly your fault for provoking Maria in the first place.
Listening to them shout at each other over the phone, I hung up. Finally, I can change my phone number. Once that's done, my ties with them will be completely severed. I had been eagerly waiting for this moment, and now I have finally exacted my revenge. I felt a sense of relief as I blocked their numbers. Later, I heard from mutual acquaintances that the two of them are still continuing their married life. Though the agreement was indeed drafted by a professional, To be honest, I'm not entirely sure about its legal effectiveness. However, it seems to have served its purpose well as a threat. And to my surprise, they seem to have had a child. Apparently, Kelly was pregnant when she called me, and deciding to have the child was commendable, but Dan continues to spend recklessly without working, and they frequently fight. The fights have become significantly worse since the child was born, with Dan increasing his drinking and occasionally becoming violent towards Kelly. Kelly fights back just as hard, and they've even run to the police station a few times, becoming well known in the area as a troublesome couple. I only worry about their child, but it seems Kelly often takes the child to the bar where Dan and I first met, and the owner, staff, and regulars all look after the child. I have no regrets about divorcing Dan, but I do regret that I can't visit that bar anymore. As for me, I've requested a transfer to a location far away from them. I'm grateful to my company for granting my request and for letting me take a leave of absence during the turmoil. I plan to start anew in this place. If I ever decide to get involved with someone again, I'm determined to build a relationship where we don't pamper each other but support each other's independence.